Okay, we're back in Pokemon Shield, and this video is games 6 and 7 against Crimson. I didn't have any other opponents this weekend, didn't really go through a lot of effort to try to find them either, but hey, you can try to get Phoenix in here one day and, I don't know, maybe Scarlet or something. But for the time being, Crimson wants a piece of me, and I am more than willing to oblige. So, usual Raichu Kingdra start, nothing out of the ordinary. We've seen the previous, what is it now, 7 fights? Or no, this is 6 and 7, so it's the previous 5 fights. So we have to wait for him to choose the next 2 victims, I mean Pokemon, to take to the field. And once he's decided, like, I have to give him a lot of credit for actually coming up with something different each time. It's just, it's gotta be running out of options sooner or later. I'll try to explain some of the math stuff as we go, because it's pretty important in this video, because I did lose track, and it made one of the fights more difficult than it needed to be. So anyway, we start with Incineroar and Whimsicott. So the Intimidate, once again, will weaken the Fake Out. Now, if I do not Fake Out Incineroar, there's a chance you could Fake Out one of my guys, and I decide to double tap him just in case. So right here we do stop him from taking action, and since Whimsicott did not use Sunny Day, that means there is no reduction on Kingdra. As a result, we get the super effective doubler, the 50% boost from the stab, and just like that on turn 1, Incineroar down. Now, due to the Tailwind, he does have a 50% speed boost on all of his guys, which has a lot of different ways of paying off. So with Incineroar out of the picture, you can probably guess who's coming out. You thought it was Torkoal, didn't you? So anyway, Venusaur should have a speed of about 120 right now. As a result, it should be the fastest thing on the field. I'm deliberating whether or not it's, like, I'm doing the speed calculations right now, trying to figure out, is it worth it? Because I am worried about Sleep Powder from Venusaur. Whimsicott is sitting at like 165-ish speed with the Tailwind behind it, so it would be faster than a Chlorophyll Venusaur, just not the Swift Swim Kingdra. So with that, the Focus Sash breaks. And since I know Kingdra is asleep, that's going to affect my next move. Instead of bringing out the Pelipper or anything like that, we're going to bring out the Chandelure. Now, why Chandelure, you ask? They are both grass types, so whatever fire move I use will be super effective by default. Anyway, that is turn 1 for Kingdra. Now the question is, will it wake up in time? So I'm going to continue queuing up the Ice Beams in the event it actually happens to wake up. Come on, Crimson, we're waiting. So there's the U-turn. I mentioned in the previous video we'd see what its final move is, and that did a whopping 4 damage. I don't know if it's a double resist or not, but Whimsicott must have a pretty crappy attack stat, all things considered. So we have to wait for him to choose the next victim, I mean Pokemon, to come out. And he chose Heliolisk. A little interesting pick. So Chandelure goes Nighty-Night. With the Tailwind, the Venusaur is faster than it because, like I said before, they should tie normally, and that's a coin toss for which one goes first. That is turn 1 for Chandelure and turn 2 for Kingdra. So he's a little concerned about the Chandelure, and right here I have to make a sacrifice to try to get this back under control. So there's the Torkoal that everyone knew was coming. Now comes Raichu. So with Focus Sash busted, there's kind of a limit to what all it can and can't do. It's going to eat a super effective Earth Power, and that is more than enough to take the rat down. There you go. Kingdra is still fast asleep. Tailwind has finally faded away, and if you've been counting the turns, you should know what's going to happen. So we're going to bring out the Pelipper to neutralize the Sun, as well as to activate Swift Swim. Now, neither of these guys have ways to bring the sunlight back. If I can get the Tailwind going for our team, I'm anticipating a Sleep Powder here, which didn't quite come. Actually, was it Sleep Powder or something else? I don't remember, because the better move would have been Tail. Oh, right, I didn't think this would one-shot it. That's what it was. So the Torkoal out. Out comes Heliolisk. So he's thinking without the Lightning Rod, there's nothing stopping him from taking out Pelipper. And you'll see. So anyway, Kingdra is now up. That was inevitable, and we have 100% accuracy with the Hurricane. And I thought it would hang on. I don't know if there was a range to kill it or not, but that took it down. That's why I used Protect, because I was anticipating the Sleep Powder, as I said. So anyway, with Venusaur down from full health, Kingdra back to being awake. Out comes Whimsicott. So I know what's coming to Pelipper's way, but if you remember, I do have a ground type in my team. So you have to remember that Whimsicott is a fairy, as a result it's immune to Dragon. And we've established in previous videos that Ice Beam is more than enough to kill it. So out comes the Sunny Day. As a result, the Solar Power is now kicking in on Heliolisk. There's the Volt Switch, which is denied by Garchomp. And Ice Beam will take out Whimsicott. So there's no Tailwind for him, but I still have mine, if I use it. There you go, Kingdra is down to 15 HP. Heliolisk loses an eighth of its health, courtesy of the Solar Power, and he has to choose the next guide to come out to the Firing Squad. So I believe he sends... yeah, he does bring out the Charizard here. So I was kind of wondering if he's going to try a bait and switch or something on me, but we will still go ahead and queue up the Rockfall. And there's nothing that'll save Kingdra here. But here is what you'll see his strategy, why this is not the same Heliolisk that he brought in previous games. Games 1, 2, and 3 that is. It's the same one from 4 and 5, don't worry. So without the sunlight, Heliolisk is the fastest guy on the field right now. He's going to go ahead and do the Gigantamax on Charizard. I do the Dynamax on Garchomp. And here is Crimson's trick. So if you haven't noticed, he's pretty much preying to the RNG. First it was with all the sleep stuff, now it's with the paralysis stuff. So there's the Wormwind. You have to remember Garchomp is no longer faster than it with the paralysis in effect, but that's still not enough to break that 50% mark. Now I do lose out on a little bit of attack power, and that is more than enough to guarantee the Charizard one turn of life. So we're doing the Dragon Pulse here to deal with the Heliolisk, and I was concerned right there that that was still not enough. Doing so does take down the Kingdra. Garchomp can't do anything on account of paralysis. Solar Power kills Heliolisk. And then Solar Power eats away at Charizard. So out comes the Torkoal, because he doesn't really have much left. And out comes the Gardevoir. So I was hoping for the Solar Power here, but we get Drought. Oh well. So we're going to fire off another Rockfall, and I'm just ignoring Torkoal because you know why by now. So Fire resists Fairy, as a result I go for the Psychic move, so I still get the stab without the resistance. Out comes another Wormwind. That will further weaken Garchomp, but the flip side is Gardevoir is purely a special attacker. It's the other one, I forgot what it's called, the male-only form that can be a physical attacker, or... not entirely sure, to be honest. But there you go, we got to deal some damage to the Charizard. Crimson does luck out with 2 turns back-to-back of paralysis, after getting all that sleep cheese in the previous game. Well, game 4. You saw game 5, I think was pretty bad. So this Garchomp goes down without accomplishing anything, but the flip side is Crimson committed everything to dealing with Garchomp. So as a result, he just doesn't have that much left. So right here I need to deal with his 50% special attack boost, as well as anything that's going to come out of the, what's the thing called again? The turtle? Torkoal. I will have the Scald amplify, and you saw in the previous video how much damage Scald actually does to Charizard, where I didn't even have to use the Dynamax at all. There's not really a good way out of this for him. He's going to go ahead and use the Tailwind in vain. Or Airstream in vain for the speed, I mean. And without the special boost, even with it, I think Gardevoir probably would have survived a little bit. It's just... it's just not enough. That's all it comes down to. So anyway, Psychic lowers it enough to where Scald will finish it, and just like that, Charizard is down. Out comes the Will-O-Wisp. Now keep in mind, Burn is for physical attacks, there's nothing for special attacks. I'm doing the Tailwind here because I'm expecting him to protect. And since I let Pelipper die in the previous game, I figured, you know what, let's bring out Chandelure and wake the sucker up. This was also a test to see if the sleep counter resets when you recall a Pokemon. The answer is yes, I'll spoil that now. So the Heat Wave comes out, Chandelure absorbs it, and the only thing for him to hit is the Pelipper. So yeah, if he wants to actually hurt Chandelure, he has to use Solar Beam once every 2 turns, dealing 33 damage on said turn. Not happening. Anyway, Chandelure is still sleeping on the job, he must be Union or something. Scald is blocked by Protect. Chandelure is still out of it. Here comes the Scald. Unfortunately, we don't get the burn. Well, I don't know if you can burn a fire Pokemon. I want to say that you probably could. That's my line of thinking, but I'm not 100% sure it's even possible. Scald was not a move back when I played it. So out comes the Protect to stall things out a little bit. Chandelure is finally awake. So I want to say that was 3 turns again, but I wasn't really keeping track because I did the commentary and I didn't make any notes of it. So yeah, we'll just say it was 3 turns again. So there goes my Tailwind. And there's literally nothing to save Torkoal. What is interesting here is we'll see which one goes first. We'll know which one's faster from here on out. Because I still have not looked up Pelipper's stats. Like, I didn't even turn the game on and look, let alone Google the thing. And I don't really know what took him so long. He was fishing for the double Protect, which only had a 10% chance of success. And yeah, Chandelure is faster than Pelipper, it seems. With that, I take game 6, but 7th time's a charm, right? Maybe Crimson can finally pull one off here. So for the final game of the week, we'll stick to that team there. Keeping the wild Pokemon theme because I'm not getting any sort of copyright flags from that, like Marnie. Stupid Marnie. Had to go ruin everything, didn't she? And yes, for the 7th game in a row, we'll be sticking to the same opening. I think Crimson's only repeated the same opening twice. Must have really spent some time deliberating there. So the question was asked, what would you do to improve Crimson's team? And I'm curious for anyone who actually watches this and has an opinion to make some suggestions. The whole Will-O-Wisp on Torkoal is a little interesting. One thing I was looking at to be even more annoying myself is I did manage to get this weekend a hidden ability Tentacool. It's just, I didn't see any cool poison stuff I could do, so it's just sitting in my PC. Anyway, Incineroar Torkoal, out comes the Drought, out comes the Intimidate. So I'm anticipating the Protect as per usual with Torkoal, so we're going to do the Fake Out and even the Scald. Because, or did I go Dragon Pulse? Basically, I'm expecting Incineroar to swap out. If he goes into Whimsicott or Venusaur, they will resist the... He didn't swap out there, if you notice. They would resist the Water move. Combine that with the Sun, it would just literally bounce off them. But anyway, that combination of moves did manage to knock down Incineroar to half health. He starts off with a Solar Beam. And he goes into Raichu to break the Focus Sash. Now, since he did not use Protect last turn, I'd still need to ignore him, kinda. And right here I need to decide who am I going to bring in. So by doing the Scald, I'm basically committing to bring in the Pelipper. So right there you'll see is the Venusaur. No, it does not have a Focus Sash to break. But by bringing in the Pelipper, that will disable the Chlorophyll, and I get the Swift Swim instead. It'll also get rid of the Sunlight penalty, so I actually think I get a boost to offset it a little bit. So yeah, getting Burn here would have been awesome, but we did that in game 2, I think it was, so what were the odds of it happening again, right? And yeah, for a not very effective move, that was just nasty, man. That's how I could tell the Venusaur did not have any sort of special defense specking. So right here I wanted the Hurricane to go off because I'm fishing for the Confuse. We know Venusaur's on its way out. It's most likely going to be a Whimsicott coming in. Like, even if he sends in Incineroar or something, it's still a really, really good move, even if it's not super effective. It has a ton of power behind it. And performing it on a grass Pokemon is like almost guaranteed death, even without the stab that comes with it. So I think right here is a little torn on what to choose. So out comes the Whimsicott, and I had my fingers crossed here for the Confuse, so I actually had a little bit of RNG going my way this game instead of, you know, like the previous one. So out comes the Incineroar. Anyone surprised? Now, there's no physical moves on either of these to give any mileage to Intimidate. But the Hurricane goes off, which is more than enough to one-shot at almost anything Kingdra does should. But no Confuse. Now here's where all the speed shenanigans come in, because now I have a 50% boost, and I think he's going to have one in a moment. So I think I was anticipating Dazzling Gleam there. Or no, it was Fake Out, right? Fake Out. Probably actually Fake Out and Dazzling Gleam. But anyway, right there, by swapping out, we will block the Fake Out. I think that's the second time we did that. Out comes the Tailwind. And here's where things get confusing, because I should have a 20-point speed boost over the Incineroar. And the smart move here in hindsight, which, yeah. I should have actually had the Chandelure attack the Incineroar with Flamethrower to benefit from the Charcoal, the Sunny Day, and the Stab, even though it's not going to be very effective, like I said before. Nothing Chandelure does will be. And I'd have Pelipper finish off the Whimsicott instead. Anyway, this is what doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I should have a Tailwind of my own to get that 20-point speed boost, but for some reason the Darkest Lariat still goes off. I think if I'm going to fight him again with this team, I'm probably going to have to give Chandelure a berry or something that's going to mitigate some of that dark damage or something, I don't know. So anyway, there's the Figgy Berry, no burn sadly. RNG is out to get me this game. So there's Heliolisk. So I'm going to go ahead and fire off the Scald at it. And then I think by now he knows the electric stuff won't work, but we're going to play it safe and Fake Out, just so he doesn't scream. Now the goal here is to basically weaken it as much as possible and then let the Sun or even the Life Orb do the rest. So that is a lot of damage for a Fake Out, man. Out comes the Darkest Lariat. Interesting choice. And yeah, that barely did anything. I think the Solar Power probably did more damage than the Skull did. Maybe I didn't have Tailwind in effect, I don't know. Like right here is when I was trying to reduce the speed stuff. Okay, so I put the Protect up because I'm pulling Raichu out. There's the Hyper Voice, which is actually going to be enough to finish off the Raichu. The Darkest Lariat is denied. And more Solar Power damage. So I pulled the trigger here trying to fish for the Solar Power ability. But you've probably gotten used to my disappointment by now. So Intimidate goes off, weakening the Darkest Lariat or anything else that's going to come out of Incineroar until it recalls. And I'm anticipating an electric move out of the Heliolisk, so I'm going to recall the Pelipper. And we're going to try to finish it off. The Heliolisk, that is. So there goes the Thunderbolt. But I went for Gardevoir instead of Pelipper, which is interesting. So there goes the Moonblast, picking off the Heliolisk once and for all. And he chooses a Parting Shot of all things. Like, that was the Pelipper spot, which just left me confused. I had no idea what was going on with that one. That was really weird and random. But anyway, Crimson needs to replace both guys, one before the turn ends and then one after the turn ends because of the knockout. And of course, it's Venusaur. And Charizard. So both of them are feeding off the sun. As a result, we need to get Pelipper in here to nip them in the bud. Cue the rain, and as a result, the Swift Swim will surpass the Chlorophyll. But Crimson's going to use this opportunity to try to get a speed advantage on his Charizard over Garchomp. Now keep in mind he does not have the solar power. So there's the Ice Beam, which will pick off the Venusaur. There's the Airstream. Sadly, Pelipper can't withstand that. And there's that speed boost that's going to break the difference between Pelipper, or not Pelipper, Garchomp and Charizard. So there's the Torkoal to replace the Sun, but like I said, Venusaur is the one I'm worried about. Now here's where I make a mistake. So I should have actually double tapped Charizard. Instead I sent the one-add Torkoal. Had I double tapped Charizard, this would have been a free and clear win, but I didn't know all the damage numbers just yet. And by that what I mean is, wait for it. Okay, so they do the Dynamax thing here. So if you remember, Wormwind will lower the attack power of the opposing Pokemon. I think it's the Poison one that boosts, and I don't remember offhand. That in turn will give Charizard just enough to withstand the Rockfall. And then he goes first on account of the Airstream. Now keep in mind this is turn 2 for Charizard. Kingdra loses attack that it doesn't use. Who cares? And now, I don't believe he takes the solar power damage because we just went from sun to sand. Once again, a burn here would have been nice, but hey, it is what it is. I think the burn actually would have killed the Torkoal outright. So right there is the burn on Garchomp, and as a result I lose half my power. A little bit of sand damage here and there. So I didn't know if... or I wasn't sure if he was going to just completely recall the Charizard to try to save it a little bit longer. In the end, he chooses to keep the Gigantamax going. I knew he didn't have Max Guard or anything because we have all of his moves accounted for. He has a Flying move, a Dragon move, a Fire move, and Solar Beam for a Grass move. So out comes Incineroar to further reduce Garchomp's attack power. Kingdra gets a 2, but no one cares. So out comes the next Wormwind. This one goes into Kingdra, ironically. So had I had Kingdra double tap the Charizard, it would be gone now and I wouldn't have to worry about this. There would be less attack debuffs out and Kingdra would still be well in the clear. But instead I have to go ahead and pick him off here. And here's where the math gets a little interesting. So keep in mind I am attack -3 with half power due to burn. He still has 2 guys, I just have Garchomp. Or no, I do have Gardevoir, I forgot. But yeah, Gardevoir is on its last legs. There's not really much that can save it. So the best thing that could happen to me here is getting Intimidate. So I finally get to reduce the attack power of the Incineroar, especially when it matters. The Torkoal is a special attacker as far as I know. Sand is gone for Sun, and as a result, fire moves are amplified. So I go ahead and queue up the Earthquake move, or whatever it's called, I forgot, on the Incineroar. I knew he was going to fake out the Gardevoir, there's not much I can do about that, but I need to use that to my advantage. So we're going to do the Max Quake, which will give me a special defense to protect me from the, Incineroar, the Torkoal. So with this, I get a special defense boost, which combines with my Assault Vest. As a result, this Heat Wave does not nearly as much as it probably should. Get a little bit more burn damage. The important thing is to note that I'm taking 11 damage per turn from burn, because that's going to come into play right here. So notice I am faster. I fire off the Earthquake. Torkoal bites the dust. Incineroar hangs on just barely, even with all those debuffs on my Garchomp. But there's one part of him that cannot be debuffed. What's that, you ask? Here comes the Darkest Lariat. Down to 13, and that is Garchomp's Rough Skin. And that is checkmate, boys. So I would have survived with 2 hit points anyway. It wouldn't have made a bit of a difference. So there you go, Game 7. Awesome finish, wouldn't you say?